Greetings, and welcome to Hearts and Hills. I'm super excited that you're joining us tonight on Hearts and Hills. Remember, you can always follow us at Hearts and Hills, the number one, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those places. So get connected with us. I am one of your hosts, Shay Robinson, and I am so excited to have the queen herself in the studio with me, MarNicka. Hey, MarNicka.
Hey.
Now, MarNicka has joined us before. She joined us for the relationship shows that we had a couple of months ago. And we had the young people, and she dropped all that wisdom. But what she failed to tell you is that she does a podcast. It's called Queen Size Thoughts, and it is super amazing. Tell us about your podcast, MarNicka.
Yeah, Queen Size Thoughts, 2 words, Queen Size, 1 word. It's a podcast that kind of focus on what it's like to be a millennial woman, late 20s, early 30s now, and how I just navigate this world and all the things that I've been through. But I kind of just talk about the many things that women in my age range or younger or older may be experiencing with relationships, career-wise, friendships, and all of that kind of stuff.
And it's super amazing. So if you have an opportunity, she's on all the podcast avenues that you could go, which is Amazon, Apple, all those places, right? iHeartRadio. Yeah, so make sure you Queen Size Thoughts, you like it. And you have 2 seasons, right?
Two
seasons out there. I hadn't listened to all of the second season yet, but it is amazing. And it really takes you through the journey of life, which is why I wanted to bring her back here because I knew she had something to say. She's very inspirational. And she's always been such an amazing person and give great advice. So tonight, she brought this topic to the table, and I said, let's do it, emotional intelligence, right? So we talk about emotional intelligence, or we don't talk about it enough, but we talk about emotional intelligence in a lot of different ways. So tonight, we're going to talk about it, tell you what it is, think about it in relation to relationships, friendships, workplaces, because it's important that we understand our emotions. So tell me why this topic is important to you.
Because I was one of those people who first of all, I didn't know what emotional intelligence was, or that it was an actual thing or a skill that a person needed to navigate the world. And I just remember being younger and stuff would bother me that shouldn't, or I would get upset about things that I couldn't control or I couldn't change. And so in my process of kind of learning myself and understanding my emotions and how I react to situations and stuff like that, I stumbled upon emotional intelligence, that as a skill. And then when I figured out that was an actual thing, me being the super nerd, I was like, I got to figure out how I can master that skill.
Yeah. What I love about emotional intelligence, and I'm like you, I didn't know what it was at first too. I didn't know it was a whole thing, but when I started to research and really go through it and really dive deep into what emotional intelligence, I understood what I lacked. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a technical definition of emotional intelligence, and then we're gonna talk about the different aspects of it. Now, according to Peter Salovey and John Mayer, they are people who've done great research on this. Emotional intelligence is a set of skills hypothesized to contribute to the accurate appraisal. Listen, the accurate appraisal and expression of emotion in oneself and others, the effective regulation of emotion in self and others, and the use of feelings to motivate, plan, and achieve one's life. I thought that was an amazing definition because there's a lot of definitions out there. But this tells you that really emotional intelligence is really about understanding who you are, understand how you respond to different situations, understand how others will respond to you, just having a complete understanding of everything surrounding around you. So when you're up, you know when you're up, you're aware of when you're up, and you know how you respond when you're up.
Right.
When you're sad, you know when you're sad, you know how to respond when you're sad, and you know what you need to do, who you need to be around, who you don't need to be around.
Right.
Those are important things.
Right.
One of the things it consists of is knowing your emotions, managing your emotions, motivating yourself. That's my favorite one.
Self-motivation is hard too. So
it is, and I think that's the hardest part out of all of them. And recognizing emotions in others. That's really, if you're a spiritual person, we call that discernment.
Yep.
In handling relationships, that means you're managing people around you. Which one of these do you think that you really have mastered? That's a good question.
Mine would have to definitely be the social aspect of it. So
Okay.
understanding people's emotions and knowing how to interact with people based off of where they are in their emotions and knowing how much they need and then how much they need me to back them.
Ooh,
but that's because I struggled with it so much at first. I used to struggle in relationships with guys that I was dating, and different things like that because I didn't know. I'm a super emotional person in the sense of if I feel it, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Right. Or if I love it, I'm gonna love it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. You know, I'm no in between. But that's a lot in a relationship dating.
It is.
If you have you just hot and cold, like there's no lukewarm, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And so for me, that was the one that I felt like I needed to master the most because I found myself in relationships that I couldn't figure out when it was too much. Because you know how you can say you meet somebody and somebody's always honest.
Ooh,
like, here's an honest person. Like my friend, she gonna always tell me the truth. Or if I'm in a relationship, they're always gonna be honest.
Right.
I used to think that was like one of my greatest attributes. I'm so honest.
Yeah.
But when you think about emotional intelligence, it's like, but honest how?
Yeah.
How does your honesty show up in your relationship?
And do you know how to express the honesty?
Exactly.
Like some of us, because we'll say this thing of, whatever come up, you get what you get, whatever come up, come out.
Yes.
And I am who I am in all spaces. Yes. And you should be consistent. Let me say
this. Talking about young MarNicka. Oh my goodness, that was her.
Yeah, you should be consistent around everybody that you have these relationships with. Right. But emotional intelligence tell you that you cannot respond to this person in the same way that you respond to this person. Or remember this, some people at that time cannot handle what you need to say. You may need to be a little bit lighter. You may not need to go deep. You may need to listen, form your opinion and your expression, and wait until the moment where they can really receive what it is that you need to share with them. That's all a part of emotional intelligence.
And communicating with empathy. I think that's when you master when you master the ability to use your emotional intelligence when working with people and understanding how to control in those emotions. It's the empathy aspect of it.
Yeah, I like that you said empathy. Keep going, because I wanted to share this definition that I found about, because I really didn't think about empathy that way. Where it talks about that you really empathy. I always made it synonymous with sympathy, and it's really completely not. It is two totally different things. But empathy is when you can put yourself in someone's shoes and think about it from their perspective, and you're not just being this judgmental. Right. You're not just glazing over the way someone is feeling in that moment,
and you're not listening to just respond.
Ooh,
you're listening to understand, and that's another sign of you having strong empathy or understanding your emotional intelligence.
So who has listened to respond and didn't listen to really hear the meaning behind what they were saying? Who's done that? So everybody just raise your hand that's out there.
Everybody.
Because we do that in relationships, especially in relationships. Yes. Which we're going to talk about emotional intelligence in relationships in just a few seconds. But especially in relationships, sometimes we do that because it just becomes this defense mechanism. Because, the one thing we like to be is right.
Right. I like to be right.
We like to be the first, the right, the best. And in relationships, sometimes that doesn't work. Now, let me tell you, one way that you can really start to understand, as we talk about this, emotional intelligence, is through personality tests.
Absolutely.
It's the best way. I'm not going to name any specific one because we don't partner with any specific one. And everybody has a love of different ones. But there's so many out there that could do so many different things and help you to really understand. Why do I say personality tests? Because they help you understand where you are, but also help you to understand how other people respond.
Right.
Now, I know for me and my husband, whenever we do marriage counseling, that is one of the things that we require. Okay. You have to do a personality test because they help us to understand how you think, how you operate, how you respond, what's your first, and we have a certain one that we use, and we always do that, and we let them research their own whatever it is, and then when we get into the meeting, they have to express to each other based on their personality test how they respond. Yeah. And it's so interesting because they never think about it in that way again. So personality tests, I'm going to tell you, if you're interested in learning more about your emotional intelligence and who you are, how you respond, how you react, that is one of the best ways. I always share this story. When we first, I did, at my own personal experience, I did Myers-Briggs with the 4 letters, right? And so my husband and I are complete opposite. You can see that, right?
Yes, very much so.
we are very complete opposites on our test. And so it made so much sense, because whenever something happens, because he is more emotional.
Yes.
Don't say yes.
In most people, you wouldn't think that as him being the husband and you the wife, you would think they were reversed. But whatever y'all think it is for the wife, now flip them when you think about her.
It is so true. Like, he is the emotional one, and I respond thinking I'm calm and I'm quiet, and he's like in this place. I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing? We had this certain incident that happened. I won't share it. It happened with one of our kids, but we had this certain incident that happened in our lives, and my husband was all over the place. I'm just thinking like, okay, let's get in a car, let's go to the hospital, let's do these different things, right? And he's trying to figure out why this happened, what this happened. I'm thinking, no, we need to just get to the doctor. And so by the time, we got to a certain place, and my son ended up having to get stitches, but by the time we got to that place, then I was super emotional. He's like, calm down. We're done. But I was already there, because I'm a thinker first.
Yep.
And I
solve the problem first.
Yeah, I want to solve the problem. And then I can let my emotions take over. Yes. But he's like, let's figure out why this happening. And I'm so sorry. And he's there. Yep. And then he thinks later.
And you know what's crazy? Even though you guys both show up differently in those situations, it doesn't mean that one of you lack emotional intelligence.
Right.
You both equally can be strong in that, but still show up differently. Because there's no right way. Yes. Oh, no, like one way.
Yeah, there is. I love that you say that. Is that you can show up differently, but that doesn't mean that you're lacking emotions. Because we were still both able to process, and we still both were able to have emotions, but it's what drove us, it's what led us. And that's what it's really about, especially when you come talk about relationships.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So tell me, give me an example of how emotional intelligence shows up in relationships.
Oh, that's a good one. I think so. Even starting a relationship, like when you first are dating or meeting someone or getting to know someone in the beginning, how emotional intelligence shows up is how you choose to show up in the beginning. You know how they always say you meet the representative first, and then you meet the other people later, the real person later. Yes. But I think that also speaks to someone's ability to have great emotional intelligence, like self-awareness, understanding who you are when you come into the relationship, so that it allows the person that you're dating to better understand what you need to receive.
So what do you mean by self-awareness?
So self-awareness, your emotional self-awareness, like self-control, transparency, like what makes me happy, what makes me sad, when do I know that I have reached my limits, I need a break, because I feel like of all your relationships, those ones where you're in love and you love somebody, I feel like they test every level of emotion that you have.
Yes.
You want to exercise your emotional intelligence, get in a relationship. Even the healthiest of relationships is going to give you moments where you're going to have to test that emotional intelligence.
Teach
that skill. So self-awareness for sure, and self-management. So self-control.
Oh yeah, well, that's good. What I love about self-awareness, it talks about being able to connect to your emotions.
Right.
I love that. You have to have a connection. So for those of us who don't like to connect with your emotions, being able to connect with your emotions means that you are emotionally intelligent. When you are blocking away, and it's easy when you've gone through things in your life. It's so easy to put up walls. I have had walls up. I'm quite sure you have had walls up, either from and I was reading some as I was preparing for tonight. I was doing some studying, and one of the things that talked about that really impacts self-awareness is how your original caretaker, the response from your original caretaker, if you had a loving, emotionally healthy caretaker, then you are more likely to be more self-aware, and you can easily go to those places. But if you did not have that experience, if it was negative or someone that's absent from your life, there's abandonment, rejection, all those things, then you are less self-aware.
Absolutely, because you can see where emotional intelligence first starts to develop. It develops as little as a toddler when they're having a bad day. If you ever see those little toddlers that can say, I'm having a bad day, you be like, where do you get all those words from? Or it's just as simple as them say, I don't feel good today. Or when you do that, mommy, when you tell me to go to bed, it makes me not happy.
Yeah.
That's emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Now, they can't go into the depth of what that emotion is,
but they're starting it.
They're starting it.
So as parents, we have to
respond.
It's how we respond. So like if your son or daughter says, you get on my nerves, instead of saying, boy, you don't have no nerves, because I used to say that,
what I
right?
used to hear.
Yeah, you don't have no nerves, stop that. So I was like, what do you mean by I'm getting on your nerves? So he could really be able to communicate those feelings. And we have to think about it in our same way. Like when something is bothering you, we love to say, I'm feeling some type of way. And I know there was a song that everybody was so excited. You got me feeling so, I don't even know how it goes. But anyway, feeling some type of way. So we used that, but then that actually was a trick, because we could no longer communicate. Some type of way is not communicating what you're feeling. You're just saying, I'm feeling so. What is this some type of way? Ask yourself those questions. I'm angry. Well, why did you get here? What happened to get you to this place? Why are we here? I love to ask myself, why are you here, Shay? If you're depressed, why am I here? If you're super joyful, I mean, I know y'all think to yourself, if you're joyful, you shouldn't be asking, but no, ask yourself what makes you feel good, so that you can always put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, because the big part of emotional intelligence is the strength of it is when you find yourself in those moments and those feelings that don't make you feel the happiest, it's controlling the thoughts that allow you to get back to that joyful place. So when you say, understand why you're joyful, it's because when you're not joyful, you have to use those thoughts, that reflective thinking, that reflection, that self-reflection, and say, this is what made me feel joyful. I don't feel good today, so let me go back to that moment when I was joyful.
Yeah, and I love joyful places, so I'm always trying to figure out, girl, how did you get here? And I don't like to be sad, right? And so I think it also rolls into places so you can understand, when we talk about self-awareness, that means understanding what you want and what you don't want. Right. So, and you talked about it at the very beginning, and so I'm reminded you, I know a couple of days ago when we talked, one of the things you were talking about is that women in relationships, sometimes we don't understand what we really want. That we look at society and society tells us one thing, but deep down we really want something else. Okay, so come on, explain that thought to everyone.
And so for me, I think it's how there's this traditional man, traditional woman conversation that always happens. And this, I'm going to do air quotes, y'all, for those y'all listening, some air quotes out here, this traditional man and traditional woman, and how that they have these specific roles or these specific things. So speaking from a woman's standpoint, like a woman who wants a traditional man to take care of the house, or to be the leader in the house, take the trash out, pay the mortgage. You get the bread, you bring it home, right? But then we still love those right? You want all of these things, and I think that's because the white picket fence, right? The society says this is what you want in a man. This is how you found the man for you. But women are so different now in 2021 that a woman can get the bread, buy the car, pay the mortgage, take out the trash, and all of those things, right? So she's a different woman, but sometimes we get stuck still in the same idea of how I find my picture perfect is this traditional man. And so for me, I had to have a conversation with myself and say, I used to always say I want those same things too. And then I realized that I was saying that's because that's what the world said is what you get. And that's how you get the happy ending. And then I realized that when I said I want a man who makes me feel safe, you have to figure out what yours is. Some people say safe is, right. Some people think their safe is a man who can financially take care of me, make me feel safe. Right. But if I can do that myself, I want a man that makes me feel safe in the sense that I won't be alone.
That's good.
In the journey.
Gotcha.
Not alone, like, oh, I just need somebody next to me, but in the journey.
Right. That take away the loneliness that you feel, in the singleness.
Right.
So I think that goes back to, and I say this with every marriage. So if you're looking to get married, if you're thinking about it, I know women sometimes we over fantasize because again the world tells us that we gotta be married to be considered valued in society. This is our role in life, to be birthed as women and to marry, right?
Yes.
That's what they tell us. But there is so much strength in who you are. So one thing I tell everybody is when you go into marriages, you have to establish your own roles. And again, it goes, and this is why it sits with emotional intelligence, because if you know what you want and what you need in relationships, you're able to communicate that, get that from them, and give it to them, if that makes sense. So, I'm not, there is, everybody knows I do not cook. I am not the chef in my family. My husband, he does a wonderful job at cooking when he cooks, but he does an amazing job, right? And I have all these people. Well, that's not a need of his, and he understands that. But it's everybody else's need for me.
Right.
Like everybody else is like, I can't believe
you don't cook.
And you had his man and he working, he the pastor, did this, and they give me all these reasons of why I need to cook. Like every single woman that I meet, this is their same
traditional man,
traditional
woman.
This is the traditional role that you should have. But in this, in this thing, we have it's different for us because I don't necessarily, my job is just as demanding as his. In traditional sense, in the past, some women's jobs, they have not been as demanding as their husbands, so they don't get the same thing. My mama said, my Lord, help her cook. No, that is not the prayer we pray in my house. No, I be praying like, Lord, bless my hands. let me get some more money. Let me buy a shelf around here.
Right.
Let me have the meals prepared.
From husband to chef, not to chef.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. I received that. You're so wonderful, friend. But it's about understanding, what your roles in your marriage is. Like if you like to mow the lawn as a woman, it is okay to mow the lawn. It's okay to have that. But because we don't understand who we are, we take on society's thoughts and feelings. And that's what would happen a lot with emotional intelligence. We don't understand how we operate. So we take on what society tells us we should take on, and we become depressed and frustrated and aggravated, and we lose our marriages because our marriage doesn't look like what they say it looks like, because that's not even what you need.
Or we also reflect it onto others. Because you say, a lot of women say to you, why you don't cook? You got this husband, you don't cook, you don't cook. But that's them just reflecting that same thing.
Yeah.
And
I don't do that. Like whenever I meet somebody, I'm like, ooh, okay, whatever works for your marriage. Because you have to understand, and that's the value. I think as we're here on Hearts and Hills talking with MarNicka from Queen Size Thoughts, that's the, we're talking about the value of emotional intelligence. That's the value of it. Because the more that you learn about who you are, the more you're able to share with the world. And I'm going to tell you, the most beautiful thing that you could be is yourself.
Absolutely.
Inside and out, and sharing the purity of who you are. You were created for this very purpose. Like God was intentional in everything that he gave you. Your talents and your gifts are purposeful. You should not lay that aside, male or female. You should pick that up, understand how it operates, understand how to navigate in this world, to communicate exactly who you are and who God has called you to be. The moment you stop doing that is the moment you stop living in your purpose and your destiny. And that is why 50% of us are depressed. 50% of us are living this life, and we're so confused about what we want to do because we are living based on what other people think and feel, and not living according to what God is calling us to be.
Absolutely. And in self-reflection in that. Because if you're confident in all of these things, you're not going to always feel that way. So you got to find a way to get back to it. And that's where self-assessment and self-reflection comes.
I love self-reflection. I think reflection is the best thing. I'm going to tell you why this is important. Whenever you have a situation, whenever you have, okay, let's go back. Life happens.
Absolutely.
Hurts, disappointments, death, all these things happen in your life, right? So if you never take the time to reflect on how that thing impacted you, you'll never understand why it impacted you. if you never take the time to reflect how these things impacted you, you'll never understand why they impacted you. You know, that is super important. And one of the things that I've just done recently, I'm a in this part of my life, let me be very clear, because I was never this. I am very emotionally intelligent based on what I was a few years ago.
Right. I'm a genius compared
to a couple years. But and so one of the things that I've done in my reflection is I reflect on relationships. But let me clarify this. When I say reflect, that doesn't mean that you take the blame, you take on the hurt, you take on the responsibility of relationships ending, beginning. That is not what reflection is about. Reflection is understanding your responses in the midst of those situations. So just recently, I've had the opportunity to really reflect on my life and some of the things that happened with me, with friendships, with relationships, and what I decided. And listen to me, it's about a decision, right? What I decided was that in this place in my life, and what I've always needed was to know that someone was completely committed to me. I didn't know I needed that. Now, y'all listen to me. I didn't know that I needed someone to be completely committed to me. I thought I was fine, living life. You here, you're not, you're not. But in this part, I'm understanding that I need to know that MarNicka is here. We don't have to talk every day, but I need to know that whatever we go through, the ups and downs, the disappointments, the arguments, whatever it is, that I can count on you to be there. That, listen to me, it is important for me to know that you are choosing me just as much as I'm choosing you.
That's my exact same thing. I was gonna say, choosing for me. That's my. I need to know that you chosen me. I don't want to be the accident, or you round the way, or we know each other because we here, or like the accident of it all.
Oh yeah.
I want to be. You choose to exist in this world with me.
Yes, because the worst feeling in the world is to choose someone who stopped choosing you.
Absolutely. Or if you have to question whether or not would they choose you if there were other options.
Yes.
And that's relationships, regular friendships,
whatever type of relationship. But I'm just in this season where I need to know that you choosing me. Like if I hurt your feelings, I need to know that you choosing me enough to say, look, girl, you hurt my feelings. Or if I didn't respond, if I didn't show up for you, I need to know that you choose me enough to tell me you didn't show up for me. I'm upset with you, and then we talk about it, we cry, we laugh, whatever we're gonna do, and we're able to move forward. But it took me a long time to be able to communicate that with myself, because I had given the need for somebody to be there was more important for the need for them to understand who I was. I'm just trying to help y'all with how emotional intelligence.
And mine was trying to figure out why my circle of people that I trusted was so small. I couldn't figure out why I didn't have a lot of friends like everybody else. Why I don't got a lot of friends? That was my thing. But then I had to realize is before I could put it into words, I chose my friends. And the people in my circle are people who have chosen me. So I would never have just a lot of friends, because what is required to exist in that level of my life is me trusting that no matter what comes your way, you're gonna choose me.
Right. No matter what, no matter who comes in, what comes in, there's still that. And so I think for women, why that's hard is because we're always selfless.
Yes.
Like we're always, because we're taught as women, you're last. When you become mothers, they tell you take care of everybody else. Your children and your husband, and you do all these things. Then you spend time with yourself. And see, I'm in the exact opposite place in my life right now. I have to take care of me first, because I got to give. In order for me to give my best me, I have to be me. I have to be centered. I have to understand and be in this complete place, so that when I get to my children, I'm able to give them my best self. That's why we're abusive in our relationships, emotionally, physically, spiritually abusive with people, because we are lacking so much of that self-care that we love to talk about. We're not self-aware. We don't understand the moments that it's time for us to step away, or the moments when we need to. It is important that self-awareness become the top thing in your life, so that you can be able to communicate with others and you'll be able to respond differently.
Absolutely. Self-awareness, self-control.
Yes, and the reason why self-control is important, because you don't want to just fly off the handle every time. And so I used to be like that. I did. I used to fly off the handle, and you catch me on a bad day, I still make it. That's one of the ones that I'm still struggling with, that self-control, because for me, it is a fight between, am I saying enough to so they can understand who I am, or am I being a punk?
Yeah.
I maybe it's just me that's afraid to be a punk sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's upbringing too, especially depending on the neighborhood you grow up in. You like, I can't let you punk me now because you're gonna keep trying. I gotta make sure it's clear that I'm not letting you punk me, right? Because you're gonna punk me forever. Right. Yeah.
Jeez, I be teaching my kids, like, don't let them punk you.
But you know what? For emotional intelligence, if you work to master that, when you start to get in those situations where you usually be the one, you fly off the handle, you question whether I should go off on this person or in this situation. In those moments when you have those and you tune into your emotional intelligence, you'll feel so much powerful at the end of that situation than if you flew off the handle.
Listen, that she's talking about the afterthought. After a few months, you're like, you know what? I handled that. Right?
No, not even. But once you get to a certain, like, for example, like last week, I got into a car accident, a fender bender. A lady hit me in my butt of my car, right? And
which are the worst?
Which are the worst? I got in a fender bender, and I remember, so we had to pull over to the side of the road to wait on the police to come about her car. And she hit me in the butt, but she gets out of the car and she's really like frantic and like all in her emotions, and she's really high in her emotions. She's like, oh my God, I'm like really up there. And I kept, my emotional intelligence kicked in, and all I kept thinking was, she needs calmness. And I'm not the one in the wrong, but she needs calmness in this situation for me to even help her to realize she's the one in the wrong.
Yeah.
So I was able to control my emotion. Now, MarNicka would be like, you hit my car, this gonna cost $3,000 to fix. Who you finna pay for it, not me, right? But that's clear in the situation. So me giving that same energy back would have been pointless.
Yeah, it probably would have escalated.
It escalated. So instead, I was calm. I said, "Are you okay?" I'm okay. I'm fine. Okay, these are just cars, right? They're just material. Cars. Yeah. I'm alive. Are you alive? Are you hurt? So I start asking her questions, and I can instantly see her calming down. And I was like, "We'll call the police. The police is gonna come. He's gonna make a report,
and we're good.
And we're good."
Yes.
Now I'm upset about my car, granted. Right. But she was like, "Thank you so much." She was like, "I just came out of traffic and she started admitting that she hit my car." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But she was so frantic. Had I matched that, she probably would try to fight me on who did what, or you was wrong, or you was right. But that was all my emotional intelligence.
I mean, yes, that's good. So you can have those immediate moments. I guess I'm just talking about the harder moments where you don't understand that your quietness. See, what I've learned is a scripture, y'all. I'm telling you, it says, study to be quiet. I tell everybody this scripture is that's all it says. Study to be quiet. It's the hardest, most important, and the most rewarding thing that you could do. However, I said hardest. I know you heard rewarding, but it's the hardest thing to do in the world, to be quiet, especially when people are abusing your character. They're doing wrong by you. It's the hardest thing to do. But again, if you're emotionally intelligent, and then that discernment, which we're going to talk about, the discernment, when you start hearing things and you understand that your words in that moment would not change that situation.
Yep.
That is why studying to be quiet is important, because you have to understand when you're wasting words.
Yes.
Because sometimes we can waste words, like you would have wasted any other words than what you said. And the importance of your study to be quiet in that moment was not that you responded in your emotions, but you responded in a way to calm the situation and get everything done. And see, we got to understand, when God said quietness, he doesn't necessarily mean shut up. He just means understand when you need to come in, how you need to respond. Quietness is just it's a state, it's a position.
Mm-hmm.
There's a position of quietness that we're in. It's not just closing your mouth. We got to get beyond that. You know, when we hear those scriptures in the Bible that says be quiet, it is a position. It's a position of power when we understand when our words are important and when they're not important. And sometimes you don't understand why quietness is required. But in the long run, God will show you that. He'll reveal that to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be intelligent enough to understand that moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because not knowing when to be quiet in that moment, you can put all your energy into that wrong moment. And then when that right one comes, now you're tired. You don't have no energy left. Because you just wasted it all in the wrong moment.
And who's done that? I mean, in relationships, in friendships, in workspaces.
Oh my goodness.
We have put our energies in the wrong place because we have not understood ourselves emotionally. And let me tell you, that's why we get emotionally drained.
Yep.
Emotional intelligence directly affects the draining that you're referring to.
Absolutely.
When you don't understand your emotions, you easily become drained because you're living in that place that you should not live in.
Yep.
We should not live in. And as beings, let's just be honest, God has told us to be spiritual beings. We're supposed to be thinking spiritually, living spiritually, moving spiritually. But if we're stuck in emotions, we're not living spiritually.
Mm-mm.
That's why discernment of emotional intelligence is really important. And I think we called it, what do they call it? Recognizing emotions in others and yourself.
Yeah,
I'm gonna add that part because they said others, but you know they're scientists. We understand science and thinking, but understanding your emotions in yourself and in others. You know, discerning when is the right time to communicate everything that you're talking about, and that's really, when you boil it down, that's really what emotional intelligence is all about. Understanding the moments. Understanding the moments. Even, you know, my son, he's so funny. He came in today and he was so upset because I told him he had to clean his room. Right? I mean, that's a common
normal
thing.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Clean your room.
He frustrated. Oh my God, I can't believe you make me clean my room. And I just want to play the game, and I've been at school all day and I don't want to clean my
hard
room.
at work.
I don't want to do my homework. And then I just looked at him. I said, okay, stop. Let's think about this. Do you supposed to clean your room? Yes. Do you supposed to do your homework? Yes. Are you supposed to do that before you play this game? Yes. So what is the issue? I just don't want to do it. Okay, well, just say that. Let's not go through this temper tantrum.
Right.
Because you don't want to do it. Just say, you know, Mom, I don't want to do it, but I know this is what I'm required to do. And it's about just really helping them to understand the moments.
And to validate the feelings. Because, I mean, it's not, that's a not wanting to is valid. Right. That don't mean you're not going to do it, but your feelings of not wanting to are valid because they're yours. And you deserve to have whatever feelings you have.
Oh, say that just one more time. You deserve to have whatever feelings you have.
You deserve to have whatever feelings you have.
So why do you think that we feel like we should not respond? Or why do we put more emphasis on how others feel about how we feel than how we feel about how we feel?
Because you lack self-awareness and emotional intelligence.
She's like, look, we've been talking about this whole show.
But that is why.
Yeah, that's true.
And most people care more about how people think they feel about them. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yes, than the other way around. But I think that's because that's just naturally this reward system that we live in with this society.
Okay.
You know, like if I make you like me, if I please you enough, I can make more money. I can get a promotion. I can get this guy to like me. But it's all about how I make you feel, because how I make you feel allows me to get rewarded in some type of way. I can get a trophy. I can get a promotion. I can get more friends if I make you like me. Y'all can get friends rather than let me show you who I am. Then you can choose whether or not liking me is an option. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that you have to sometimes get people to like you. That's just a part of the life. And that's the reason why we approach it that way. It's because society makes us. It's a reward system.
I never thought about it like that. That's a good thing. See, this is why we have queen size sauce in the studio with us because she gives us queen size thoughts. We got MarNicka Smith in the studio tonight on Hearts and Heels, and we've been talking about emotional intelligence. We've talked about self awareness, and we talked a little bit about social awareness. And you said that's one of the things that you were really great at. Explain to us about social awareness.
So social awareness is recognizing others' emotions. That's really what social awareness is. It's that simple. Recognizing others' emotions and the ability to recognize their emotions to determine how you should react in that situation. Okay,
so very similar to what you shared a few minutes ago with the card. So understanding and then making a response based on that. That's good. That's good.
And that's where empathy comes in.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's in social awareness.
Dropping smiles tonight. Yes. So one of the things that I picked up when, of course, I've been reading, it says you're able to read and understand the power dynamics and the shared emotional experiences in the group. I love that. The power dynamics, understanding the social experiences that's happening around you. So I love that. Now, another piece of emotional intelligence is relationship management. Being aware of how effectively you use your nonverbal communications. Listen, y'all, nonverbal communications is more important than your verbal. Because it's different when you say, I love you. Verbally, I said, I love you. But my eyes rolled.
Very irritated.
Very irritated. Now, if I say
love is questionable.
But I can say, you okay. You would take that better than that. I love you,
absolutely,
right?
And that was just okay. But I think
I'm not even saying I love you, right? But the difference in how I communicated what I was saying is important. So that's what we talk about, relationship management, where you can deal with your nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
Listen, it is not, you cannot, it's how you respond in your body makes a difference.
Yes. You want to know who in the world needs to understand nonverbal cues? Men. They be missing all of them.
Okay. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yes. Sometimes women don't communicate clearly, and it's so weird because men are very literal creatures. White and black. You want me to take out the trash? Say take out the trash. Right, don't say all I do everything around here. Don't nobody do nothing. And your point is the trash is in the kitchen.
That's true.
They're very literal creatures. Yeah. Whereas women use body language and social cues as their social cues. Okay. So they'll say one thing out of their mouth and then their body will show something different and they want you to catch on to it.
Yeah, like, it's okay.
It's okay.
Ooh, they say it's okay or we all right. No.
Watch their body. Because a woman can say it's okay 50,000 different ways and mean something different. It's okay. Now she's saying you ain't get it right the first time, so just forget about it. That's that. It's okay, right? And then if she say it's okay, that means she really don't care. It's really okay. You can move on with it, right? But it's the body language.
Yeah. And she be like, okay. That means I'm irritated, but I'm gonna go with this. But I'm a little irritated with you. I just want you to know. Understand there's a level of irritation. Yeah. So I know I read sometimes when the men say if a woman, whatever the expression is, if she says this, then it's not true, men. 9 out of 10 times you're right. We do a horrible job at really communicating directly what we want. But we do a great job at communicating non-verbally. It's just men they don't pick up on that. They don't. They don't. So like I told my husband,
but it's not that we just can't continue to blame them. Like we got to find a way to meet in the middle.
But I think they should just understand that that's how we roll. Understand this thing like it's been this way forever.
So then they can say, well, we need to understand that when they say something, we should take it literal.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when the guy say he don't like a girl, but he be hanging out with her. Like he told you he didn't like you.
Yeah, but you took him hanging out with you
as him, which is you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So we say that, then that's true for them too.
That's true. Good point. But women, listen, men will say exactly what they mean. Exactly they don't like you. They don't like you, and there's nothing in the world that you can do.
And just because they hang out with you doesn't mean they like you.
Because that's not what he said.
No,
he said he doesn't like you. He's not ready for a relationship. And you trying to create this relationship.
Right.
No,
because he invited you over to eat dinner. Still not a relationship. Still not a relationship.
And he's still gonna do exactly what he want to do.
Right.
And don't you get mad.
Don't you get mad.
Yeah. You're right.
He told you exactly what he wanted and what he said.
He said, "Look, this is not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. I'm not looking for a relationship, but if you want to hang out, we can." And you took that as, "I'm gonna hang out long enough, and then maybe he'll like me, and then maybe he'll want a relationship." The man told you from day one what he wanted.
Listen, that's why emotions are important. You know, understand emotions in relationships, men and women. And men, you got to start understanding too when we give these cues. You know, I gave my husband a cue the other day. I was like, look, he said something. I forget what we were talking about. I really don't remember. But I remember making a comment, like a side comment. I don't even know what it was because we talked about it so much the past couple days. But I made a side comment and he just kept going. So I kept making that side comment like, do you not hear this? Like, I'm trying to tell you what exactly I want you to do. I do not want you to do it. I forgot what it was, but he eventually, after the 10th time, you know, he understood. But I started thinking about that situation again, drive down the highway. I was like, okay, how could I have done that differently? You know, how could I have responded and got him to understand way before my anger started to rise? Because the more I said it, the more he didn't understand, the more I got irritated, and the more I got angry. And then finally I had to, you know, bring it back like, okay, he didn't get it. But finally he got it and we were okay, right? But then I had to understand what I could have done to communicate better. So the very next day, like, I had something else that I wanted to say. So I just said it directly. And he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so saved you some energy.
All these years, 18 years of marriage, and all I had to do was just say it. So emotional intelligence, relationship management, hand in hand. Decision making. This is a great aspect of emotional intelligence. The more that you're aware of how you respond, the better you can make your decisions.
Absolutely.
You just become, because you start making decisions for the right reasons. Before you're making decisions based on a fabrication or a dream or the lie you're telling yourself. Like, it's okay to do this because of this. It's okay if they treat me this way because of this. But the more that you become more intelligent, more emotionally intelligent, you are able to really make decisions that are best for you and that represent you.
Yeah. And less impulsive.
Sometimes Bishop Rod on the phone told me sometimes the 10th time is the charm. You're right, baby. I'm gonna keep telling you 10 times.
10 times.
Yes. But when you think about emotional intelligence, one thing it does is just kind of drive you into making your better decisions. Why? Because you start thinking at a deeper level. So a lot of times, and if you look at emotional intelligence, the letters is EI or EQ. Right? That means you're when you think of IQ, that means that's your level of intelligence as far as smartness and what you understand the world. So when you think of EQ, that is your level of emotional intelligence, being able to understand yourself emotionally. So the more you understand yourself emotionally and how things impact you, the better you are at making decisions about your life and where you want to go. And that's really important because that alleviates stress.
Yeah, it allows you to make smart decisions.
So what's an example of a dumb decision, MarNicka?
So a decision you make at the top of your high emotions that you're not able to think through, and then at the end of it, you regret it based on making that decision in that emotion. Because I think sometimes you can make a decision that you've clearly thought through and realize it's not the right decision, and don't necessarily regret making that decision because you thought it was the right one.
Right.
So you just can take that loss and be like, you know what, that wasn't it. This is how it come out. But if you make a decision when you're just emotionally charged and you're not able to think through, then you find yourself back in that same place because now you're in regret of that decision you made and you're still at the top of that emotion trying to make that decision again. It's going to take you longer to get to the finish line.
Longer to get to the finish line.
It takes longer to get to the finish line, and I feel like it leaves you with more regrets. Because I feel like even if you make decisions that don't necessarily pan out the way you want them to be perfect, you won't regret the decision because you gave yourself the chance to think through it and make that decision. So you get to trust in yourself. because everything isn't always going to go your way.
Mm-hmm.
But when you make them fast, you find yourself in a lot of regret. And living with a lot of regret makes all the rest of your decisions hard. Mm-hmm. Because all you think about is all those times you made those bad decisions.
Mm-hmm. And it becomes hard to make decisions.
Absolutely.
And if you notice, there's some people in life that cannot make decisions.
Oh my goodness. Cannot make decisions. I have a friend like that. That cannot make, like, even down to what we gonna eat.
Yeah, I have that problem sometimes.
Oh my goodness. Like, and that's hard for me because I am very much a decision maker. Like, I'm like, pick something.
Right. And let's go with that.
And that's me. I'm one of those people that will pick and just go. So that's why I had to realize not to work off impulse, because I'll make a decision. Mm-hmm. So I have to think through, because I'm not a person that's going to be indecisive. Mm-hmm. So I got to think through really well, because I know I'm going to make a decision. So I have to make sure I'm making the right one, because I'm not going to stand in indecisiveness.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's so funny. I don't like indecisiveness, but I can be indecisive. So, but, and I think I'm more the opposite, meaning that for things that doesn't matter to me, mm-hmm. I'm just like, okay, I can go with the wind. Mm-hmm. But there are things that I truly just believe in, and I'm hardcore. This is where I am. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as going out to eat. You know, I may say, these are the restaurants I do not want to go to. Mm-hmm. Pick wherever else you want to go. Yeah. You know, I have clearly shared with you my emotions on what I want to do, and I'm okay with whatever decision is afterwards. So even in decision making and understanding that, you have to understand, again, go back to your limitations, what you can, in making the decisions, what you can take and what you can't take. And one of the things when you talk about emotional intelligence and making decisions, that's what causes us a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. And this is why we make bad choices. Mm-hmm. We make bad choices when we're not considering ourselves, and we're not considering the people around us, and therefore it causes us to be stressful. Procrastination is a bad side effect of emotional intelligence, because we feel like we are able to push something off and we can handle it later when we really can't. Right. We really can't. Mm-hmm. You need to go and do it now. Mm-hmm. Let me tell somebody, go ahead and do it now.
Yeah. Or if you're a person who struggles with being indecisive a lot, likely your emotional intelligence isn't in the place you want it to be.
No.
If you're always indecisive, I am telling you that you lack a certain level of emotional intelligence. Because many times you're indecisive because you're afraid of the outcome of what people may think, if they realize that that's your decision.
Right.
Like, if I choose this restaurant and everyone doesn't like it,
then it's my fault.
I feel bad. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But if I choose this restaurant, y'all decided not to choose, either everyone's going to be happy, and if you're not, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Because y'all left me with the decision to make it, so I made it.
So that's a good way to think about, because we don't think about it. I've never thought about it that way. I might need to work on my emotional intelligence when it comes to making decisions, because then it goes back to, I'm telling you what it all goes back to, your rejection.
Yep.
Like it links with rejection.
Yep.
A lot of emotional intelligence links with rejection and not having people around you, and you have to be really careful with that. So if I look at it from that point, I can see where sometimes I don't make decisions because of that.
Yeah.
Because I want to be accepted. Yeah. And I want to feel valued and in part and loved, and I don't want people to feel like, oh, you did such a
But you know where that shows up bad?
Where?
In the workplace, when you're in a leadership position.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you're leading people who need you to make decisions.
And you know what? Let me tell you, the worst thing you could be is a leader that would not make a decision and would not stand on your own 2 feet. Like, whatever that decision is, you have to go with it, whether it's good or it's bad.
Yes.
You have to stick to it and say, this is what I've decided. Mm-hmm. And I have been around leadership for both ways. And the worst leadership was having someone who cannot stand it, who cannot make a decision, who cannot stick with one thing, or always blame someone else instead of. And you're right. It shows up really badly there
in leadership. And that's where you find workplace burnout. If you are a supervisor out there and your staff is burned out and you can't figure out why, you might be a part of the problem.
Okay. Keep going.
Because you lack emotional intelligence enough to realize that your staff is burned out
Mm-hmm.
and what they need. Because every job has seasons of burnout, right?
Right.
So in my job, I have highs and lows. There's a time of the year I know no matter how much I prep for it, I'm going to be burned out during that season because of what is required of that job at that moment. But as a supervisor and leader myself, I know that also my staff is going to be burned out during that time. So what they need from me in order to still be able to show up, because they're going to be burned out. I can't avoid that part of it. Mm-hmm. But how can I make it so that they can keep going, so we can get out of that part of it? And having the empathy, the emotional intelligence to know that if they showed up late today, it's not about them as the employee. Them as the person needs grace in that moment, you know. Ooh, or if they're frustrated and they're tired, and sometimes in those heavy moments when they don't respond to me in a way that I think is appropriate. Now, don't be disrespectful, but sometimes it's not like the cheeriest. I don't take that as you're a bad employee.
Or you get so offended by that, and you really
I learned from my emotional intelligence. It's taught me to separate someone's job from them as a person. And so, like, when I connect with my staff, when I have meeting with them and they're one-on-one and I talk about what they need, I literally separate the conversation into two different people so they can understand that this person, this position
needs
this, and then you need this. And then how can we figure out how to make them two be happy enough so that we can get the job done? And that this specific position has these tasks, and that position didn't meet the necessary needs of that task. Let's figure out why. What's going on over here?
Because they are so related. They're interrelated, but they're separate. They impact each other.
They do,
but they are two very separate things. And what I do want to land on here is that you said something really important, that you didn't get offended. The spirit of offense, we've talked about it before in different spaces, but the spirit of offense is so powerful when it comes to emotional intelligence.
Yes.
That's why you need to be emotionally intelligent, so you won't be offended every time someone look at you a certain way.
Criticism.
Don't criticism. Yes. Tell you something that you need to know, but you really don't want to know. Or they say something, or they don't say thank you, or they didn't say good morning, they just walk by. You know, we have to, emotional intelligence will tell you everybody doesn't have a great morning every day. Or a great day every day. And we have to be wise enough not to take it personally, and have enough discernment to understand when we need to intercede, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through talking, whatever it is, we can intercede on and say, hey, let's talk about this, because it's been a couple of days. I'm giving you a chance to kind of work through this, but let's talk about it. But you wouldn't imagine how offended people get.
They get offended. And for me, I always say when stuff happens that rubs me the wrong way and it's come from someone that I know I haven't done anything to, I literally say, oh man, that is not about me. Right. I wonder what they're going through, because that is not about me.
So I love this movie. It's really old, but it has a lot of profanity in it. But when I watched it, it was really so good. And it talks about the degrees of separation, how something happened at this place. They start at an event, like this big tragic event, and then they back up to talk about what happened earlier in the day. And then you learn that the reason why this person was in this position had nothing to do with the current situation it was in. It had something to do with before. So that is when I really start thinking about, when I see people and people don't respond, or they do something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's towards me. It just may be something that happened at home. And how many of us have woken up and something just didn't go right. We had a bad morning. Didn't sleep well. I mean, or, you know, on the way to work, car hit us. And, you know, just all these things that can impact us, and we don't want to be judged by that moment. We want to be judged by our overall character. Hence emotional intelligence. But look, we've had a great conversation tonight. It has been really amazing, MarNicka, with Queen Size Thoughts. She is coming back next week, and we got some more stuff to talk about. She is joining us as our guest co-host over the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited because, as you can see, she drops plenty of knowledge and wisdom.
I appreciate it.
Meet us back here next week. It's going to be the two of us hanging together, Queen Size Thoughts and Hearts and Heels together. next Thursday at 6 p.m. And remember, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. And if you can't put your heart in it, put your heel on it and walk away. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Have a good night.